The member for Yan Yean.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. It is a very grave matter to sack a council, and it's deeply regrettable that we've seen this 2 sitting weeks in a row. That this should come in any way as a surprise to any councillors in the city of Whittlesea simply beggars belief. That they would be so unaware that this could be a possibility of their litany of abrogation of responsibility and failure to deliver for this disadvantaged and rapidly growing population just beggars belief. And it's continued to go on. The member for Kew, I'm really pleased to hear him say that they will wholeheartedly, the opposition will be wholeheartedly supporting the removal of this council. Although I do take issue, he referred to the monitor, Mr Blasher, and who is a very well-regarded former public servant who served both sides of politics without fear or favour and was appointed by the minister to be a monitor. And it seems from this report, the monitor's report tabled today, that that was an opportunity. When the monitor was appointed, that was the warning. The minister was saying, pull your heads in, actually start working in the interests of the community and pay some attention to governance. Pay attention to the fact that you've caused enormous disruption to your staff. 6 CEOs in 5 years. How anyone, let alone a councillor in the city of Whittlesea, would think that this would survive the pub test beggars belief. And the monitor's report, I did want to mention, take up something that the member for Kew, when he said he was supportive of this, and he mentioned Mr Blasher, and then he said he hoped there were no other motivations. And I think that is an unfair aspersion on Mr Blasher's integrity.
Point of order.
Sorry, I don't mean to take up the House's time on this, but I wasn't referring to Mr Blasher at all in my remarks. It was a reference to the government.
Ask the member for Yan Yean to continue referring to.
Thank you for that clarification, member for Kew, because I think that was a really important inference to not have stand on the public record. A report completed in Mr Blasher's report, tabled in the Parliament today, references a report by the consultancy firm Beyond Excellence, which interviewed and that was in November 2019, that interviewed all councillors and designated council staff, described countless examples of a lack of professionalism by individual councillors. This covered a wide gamut of behaviours and actions which were described as threatening and aggressive, stonewalling, shaming, insulting and manipulative, not attending or walking out of meetings, media leaks, crying and litigation, to name a few. These are seen to be deliberate and menacing through to stage performances and theatrics. And that's quoting from the Beyond Excellence report. Then the monitor goes on. Such behaviours have been commonplace, readily observable and frequently reported on in the media. They have continued unabated during the time I have been monitor. And a couple of parts on. A number of councillors seemed either not to understand or chose to ignore that their responsibilities did not encompass operational management and decision-making, or that abusive behaviours towards staff and each other were an unacceptable breach of the councillor code of conduct and normal civil behaviour. Staff reported numerous examples of how some councillors pressured them and on some occasions abusing and swearing at them if they did not get their own way. The member for Kew mentioned that there are some 20 active investigations, the majority by the local government inspectorate, relating to Whittlesea Council. One councillor who figured prominently in my interviews with staff for his bullying and aggressive behaviours was scheduled to appear before a councillor conduct panel following an application from the Chief Municipal Inspector for a finding of serious misconduct against him. However, he resigned and the CMI withdrew the application the following day, which dissolved the panel. And I have to say, I'm not going to name that councillor, but that councillor actually chased me down the street threatening to hit me. So if a councillor who had been a mayor did that to me, an elected public official in front of children, what on earth was that councillor and others doing behind closed doors? And yet they couldn't even amend that behaviour when they had a monitor. One of the other references in the report talked about strategic planning done late November 2018. All the work that council officers had put in for a forward strategic plan about the direction of the City of Whittlesea, future directions. And the monitor says 4 councillors did not even attend to adopt that. And then once the balance of power changed again, that strategy was ignored. There was no strategy there. This council has been led by a heartless, clueless crew of clowns who have also just behaved in an aggressive and appalling behaviour. At one stage, the officers at the City of Whittlesea mostly live in the City of Whittlesea. And in my 17 years in Parliament, I have found them to be incredibly professional. They have never once leaked to me anything about any councillor, despite being pressed at some of the poor behaviours over the years, until after the recent balance of power and the appointment of a new inexperienced mayor, which then saw yet another CEO pushed out the door whilst on sick leave. And so the Monitor's report says that staff morale completely collapsed and these staff were unable to do their jobs. They contacted me deeply distressed. They were suicidal. I mean, it is just unconscionable that these councillors continue not to take responsibility for their behaviours. And what did we see yesterday? So they're thinking, aren't they thinking, oh, maybe there might be an interim report. There's Parliament this week. They were supposed to have a meeting last night to adopt the budget. This Parliament and the Parliament in Canberra and every Parliament in Australia is having to deal with an unprecedented disaster that is afflicting worldwide at a time when every tier of government should be looking to their responsibilities and thinking how they can support their community through the COVID-19 pandemic. This councils, instead of pulling up their big girls' pants and saying, we've got to pass the budget, we've got to send a strong message to this community that we care about what's happening. We care about their health status and whether or not they're going to, whether they're feeling safe in the middle of this pandemic. It was a meeting to adopt the budget. They didn't pull up their big girls' pants and take up the baton of leadership and actually use, work with the officers to deliver to the community. No, they got under the doona and said, let's cancel the meeting. Oh, we're afraid. But they've certainly got enough time to, send off another letter to another lawyer, to send goons around to a monitor's private house. I mean, it beggars belief. It means that you have got no respect for any principles of government. And I want to thank the staff that have put up with this over a very long period of time. And I want to thank the community that have put up with this. The highest rate of heart disease in Victoria, one of the lowest rate bases per capita. And these clowns have been asleep on their watch. We want a Mernda Aquatic and Recreation Centre. I'm the Parliamentary Secretary for Sport. I pleaded with them, put in some money for planning. The time for talk is over. You can do the detailed planning, then you can submit subsequent applications through our aquatic fund, through the major stadiums fund. But they didn't do any of that. It was just talk. And then when I asked them about it, they said, wanted to blame officers and said, let's kick, someone's ass needs to be kicked for that. And I said, no, there's been quite enough of that. There's been absolutely enough of that. This council should go. I want to thank the councillors that did pay to Economic Development Council, pay attention, the Labor councillors and Councillor Joseph. And I'm sorry that they're being sacked, but I commend